Good morning and good afternoon again, and welcome to another episode of Around the Horn. Hey, Kevin,
Hey,
your
Tom,
camera
how are you this morning?
really good today?
Yeah, I had a little camera problems last week. Sometimes that happens when you get conflicts of technology, but solved it for today. So here we are.
Yeah, so quite a bit to cover today. Where do you want to start and
You
and and
know,
jump in?
so I think I want to do a couple of things really quick as we get rolling here. Just the thing that we do every week is kind of remind people of why we're here. So the first part of that is that, we have developed, this around the horn piece that we do each week here on LinkedIn and on Facebook Live and on YouTube Live to kind of consolidate some information of things that we see going on around both in the business world, the technology world, and wholesale distribution. And there's no shortage of abundance of information that's out there from a lot of the trade publications, some of the consulting groups, but they're very focused on some very specific topics. We've tried to take this with around the horn, where we're really looking at what's going on in the business world, what's going on in technology, and then how does that relate to the wholesale distribution world that we work within with our software company LeadSmart. So that's kind of purpose behind what we're doing. We're trying to consolidate this. The big piece I wanted to remind everybody each week is we send out to a few thousand people every Friday morning goes this newsletter. So if you're seeing this today, you're not getting the newsletter, pop a little note in the comments down here that you'd like to get that. Send us a message on directly on LinkedIn if that's helpful to you, or hello@leadsmarttech.com, and we'll get you added to this. So the email address, if you wanted to use it again, is hello@leadsmarttech.com. And we'll get you added to this. So that's kind of the little plug we wanted to do first. And then, by the way, if you're enjoying these, if you're here each week, share this with your friends. The more the merrier, because we get good questions and good conversation going. So that's the key first part of the morning. But Tom, if it's okay with you, I'd like to reverse order today, because we've got some really good topics that went out in the newsletter this morning. But I'd like to kind of talk about some industry stuff first. So let's key in a little bit real quick on this topic there about Kodiak Building Materials partners. That's this private equity group that's buying up a lot of these companies out there. Just acquired Western Interior Supply, and we wanted to unpack that one just a little bit, because one of our new customers and great people that we're working with at Jones Hertz, who's an affiliated distributor member. They're a gypsum and drywall and construction materials company, distributor in the Rockies. Great folks, just coming on as one of our customers. They're part of this Kodiak group. So it's kind of neat to see more acquisitions there.
Yeah, I think I think we're going to see a lot more of this, right? As you see consolidation, and obviously there's regional leverage between a lot of the different groups that they're acquiring, and I know we're excited to be getting involved on a broader level with them as they go forward. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's good stuff to see that. It's nice to see the M&A activity continue. The pace isn't slowing down. Nice new hire at PIP. I'm sure Joe Malott and the group that got PIP to where they are today are happy to have a new president there. But it's also good news kind of about the cutting tool consumption rising. So, I think we're going to see some flattening off here, maybe a little bit of falling off, but we're really, still trying to stay bullish on the market that we're in, and stay very focused with that as well. So it's good news. So let's go down real quick. I want to talk about trade shows and events.
Boy, nothing look like much is going on.
Well, yeah. Well, it's pretty easy for you to say, because you're not slugging around the country on an airplane going to a bunch of these events. So next week is the AD electrical event. So folks are rolling in on that division to Denver next week, to the Gaylord Hotel there. We've got some of our partners that we work with closely that are going to be there. And that's kind of a neat thing to do as well. So that's happening. But I'll be heading down Sunday to San Diego. Fortunately, not too far away from that for me right now. But that's the National Safety Congress. So I just was thinking the other day, I think I will have been 31 out of the last 33 years, or 30 out of 32 years. I think I've only missed two since 1989, which was my first one of these events. So it's going to be great to see both some customers that we have there that use LeadSmart within their company, both manufacturers and distributors, some prospects that we're deep in discussions with, and then a lot of longtime friends. So that'll be a great event. Really looking forward to that. Net Plus is coming up in a few weeks in Las Vegas. We'll be at their annual event. We're going to showcase my lack of golf skills on their Sunday event, and then their trade show for a couple of days. And then these other AD events coming up, as well as the ISA Fall Summit. We'll be participating and exhibiting at those as well. So it's going to be a busy fourth quarter for us. So we'll look forward. If you folks are going to be there and you'd like to get together at any of these events, please let me know.
Yeah, we can definitely report, on our Friday show a bit about the events and having take pictures and stuff like that when we're there. We can share. If people weren't able to make all of these, we can definitely fill you in.
I think that's a good point, Tom. I think maybe what we'll do, it's not my favorite thing to do just logistically, but it's certainly manageable. Maybe from a couple of these events, we'll do a little, short LinkedIn live to talk about what's going on. And we can let people know when we're going to do that ahead of time. You just got to remind me to bring the little camera holder and microphone and all the stuff that you usually do for us when we're at events together. So that's very good. So let's pop in and talk about a couple of these, because I think these three, latest kind of business world news are powerful for, our friends and partners within the distribution world. Which one of these you want to take first?
Well, I was really intrigued with this first one about the Gen Z workers.
Yep.
And, we've been talking a lot. I think we even had an episode where we kind of focused in on the whole fact that millennials are now, the predominant decision maker in B2B. Well, right on their tails, right, are the Gen Z workers that are coming into the market as well. Yep. And so I really thought that this was a very interesting, I haven't read the whole study on this, but I did scan through it and try and, get some of the key pieces. And, there are a lot of attention going on to how to attract younger workers.
Yep.
And technology appears to be one of the key lures, if you will, for a younger worker. And I guess, that makes sense, right? If I'm a younger worker going to apply for a job or look for a job, and I want to see that company is modern and progressive and innovative and, certainly just even aligned with, how I've grown up and the technology that I'm used to using. So, I think it's going to become a bigger and bigger requirement, if you will, to continue to attract talent. Yep. And, not just at the millennial level, but even younger workers.
Well, I think you're spot on there, right? And this is something we've talked to quite a few of our customers about and our prospects about as well, is, the idea of the changing workforce, right? You've got, this article talks about the amount of baby boomers that are going to be retiring, and then what's the importance of what's coming, the importance of technology to people that are entering the marketplace. And it's interesting because they talk about this Gen Z group, that 70% of them said that the technology that's used in the company that they go to work for is a big factor for them. That's pretty astounding, right? And so we've talked to both, our investors in our company and our technology company, as well as customers about this, is that, now is really the time that you want to make sure that you are keeping up with the times, because we've had this whole great resignation, and then now we've got some layoffs that we're seeing, but we're finding this balancing in the workforce. And people out there that, are looking for new work, and the top quality people, this younger generation, and it's not just, Gen Z, as this article talks about, it's millennials and even beyond that, but people are expecting that you're going to provide them the right tools that they need to effectively do their job. And, as we've talked about with so many folks, right, is now this new buyer, right? When I started my career, and, my cell phone was in a bag this big, and, I still had a pager, but we went and saw, people on a schedule on a consistent basis with that buyer. And we did lunch once a month with, this construction superintendent or that factory foreman or buyer, whoever it might be. Those days have kind of moved behind us. And now, people are looking at, they're ordering dinner from this device that's coming to their house. They're going to the movies on the weekend by using a device, and technology is at the core of their life with how they're purchasing things. So it's something that, we talk about a lot here, but people really need to be thinking about is, can I get the right people into my organization to sell to my changing customer moving forward? And am I positioned to that? Because, don't worry about, and this is, one of my favorite quotes, right, is, and I'm not a hockey guy, but is Wayne Gretzky saying, years and years ago, was, I skate to where the puck is going. And if you're going to skate to where the puck is going in your business, right, having the tools in place to attract, and this isn't just technology, right? This is, work-life balance. This is vacation time, PTO, however you have those balances. People have different expectations, and buyers have different expectations.
Yeah, no, and we talked about tech stack. I don't know if it was last week or the week before, but I think being able to articulate your tech stack and the integrated tech stack of,
right.
And even when somebody, you're trying to recruit people or you're meeting with candidates or whatever, and say, here's our tech stack and here's how you can leverage that tech stack to be more successful, and we're going to help and be more successful with our customers. That's a very strong statement.
Yep.
And when you start, if you have good recruits and top talent that are meeting with lots of different companies, you can really get yourself a step ahead of that by that. So yeah, it's really interesting, and this continues to become more and more of a conversation and an issue. And I highly recommend reading the report that we had here in the article. There's actually a full research report you can download with all of this stuff in here. So
yeah, so that was kind of courtesy of Connexium technology company that did that study, but the Industrial Supply Magazine is the one who posted that. So I thought that was really interesting, and I think it's quite another just almost like tie-in to this second article about this quiet quitting concept, right? That's from this Harvard Business Review article I read earlier in the week. And it's interesting about this concept of, we expect, as business leaders, we expect a lot from ourselves. Our leadership teams do the same. We expect a lot from them. But what, everybody is really looking for, I think, in their companies is to have a culture where people give their best every day. And what this article kind of talks about is there's a lot of things that are changing in the world, and COVID had a huge impact on how people view work and work-life balance. And we have a whole, microcosm of the workforce who decided they weren't going to go back to work because they could get checks from the government every month. That we're seeing a lot of that change. This concept of this quiet quitting is like, really, are there people in your organization who maybe they're getting the bare minimum done, but they've already quit or left your organization in their mind? And this talks a little bit about the challenges that can cause in organizations and how you can see some of the signs to that. So I thought it was kind of cool because it ties into that previous article we looked at about technology, but the workforce is changing.
Well, I think and to me, this is a good example of, the whole work from home. And by the way, I personally am a big fan of hybrid working and work from home and all of that. But I think the ability to quietly quit is much easier, right? When you're working from home and, nobody can see what you're doing necessarily. I mean, and so I think it's been, in a way, and again, we've made it easier, right? In some ways for people to quietly quit. And so I think that is also, I agree with you. It ties into, again, how do you use technology to not only, and not to spy on people, but to enable the people to do more. And so that they're not wanting, they're excited about their job and so forth. And then, I think there's a lot of conversation. We've talked about it, about, hybrid working and work from home and office. And, we're even going through that in our own company.
Well, I was just going to say that, right? You wrote that new policy earlier this week, right? I'm waiting to read it.
Yeah.
You done with that yet?
Yeah, I said the policy is no quiet quitting. So
okay, good.
No,
okay, good.
But anyway, it's not an easy, it's not a simple, like it's not a simple situation, but it's something that I think we're going to have to be aware of and live with for maybe, long time, because hybrid working is here to stay.
Yep.
And, working from home, especially on a consistent basis, is very different than somebody. It's not that people didn't quietly quit while they were in an office. A lot of people did. It's just easier.
It's easier to hide now, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And, I think the caution that goes with some of that, right, and we've seen this is, I don't think anybody wants to turn into an organization where you're just becoming big brother, right? We talk about that a lot when we talk about technology, and it's easy to get stuck in a place. In fact, I just had an email this morning from our friend at the Distribution Strategy Group, Ian Heller. We've got a call scheduled next week, and I know one of his things is talking about CRM. Is Ian's a well-known expert in the industrial distribution, construction distribution world, and in his thinking about CRM is like it's most people just view it as a big brother thing, and then people learn how to game it and so forth, and it's almost like the quiet quitting thing there again, right? Is, well, I'll just do whatever I can to get by. But when people have the right technology and the right culture within their organization, you and I had a couple discussions earlier in the week about culture as our organization is growing, and people can look at that, and if you have the wrong culture and you use technology wrong, right, you can cause disruption with your team. If you use those things correctly, it doesn't have to feel like Big Brother, right? If you have a CRM system and your employees see it as, hey, I can grow my relationship with my customer because of my insights that I have from our ERP system and other tools into the CRM, and I can see how I need to support people, that's going to make me more money and my customer is going to be happy. Now we've got this engagement that we want. The opposite side of that, though, is when you start thinking about companies that tell you have to do a certain amount of this and a certain amount of that, or put keystroke trackers on your keyboard, or different stuff on your software. Now we're developing a culture that is the reverse of inclusive and really having great involvement with people. So I think there's a balance that's got to be found here.
Well, I think you can look at tech, and I think there's almost a little matrix, right?
Yeah.
Is you have
no way.
technology.
You're thinking about it from a science standpoint?
From a science standpoint.
Yeah. Wow. Shocking.
You can look at technology from an enabling perspective, or you can look at it from a tracking. I want to, you call it the Big Brother side, right?
Yep.
If I go in with the mentality that I'm going to use technology to enable, and if I have a culture of trust versus a culture of distrust, which is the other part of my matrix. So if I have a culture that's built on trust, and a culture built on, or a business built on enabling technology, you'll get huge results. If you have a culture built on distrust and technology that is more tracking and well, again, that's probably not going to be a winning combination. So, and again, that kind of combines with what we were just talking about, right? Is having the right tech stack and an enabling piece. But I guess what I find so fascinating about this is that technology and the use of technology is going way beyond just, hey, I've got technology for, people have generally done technology in the past for productivity, or, just basically trying to streamline things and automate tasks that have been tedious or difficult. But now it's becoming such a different, it's much, much a broader impact in terms of its impact in the organization, its impact to the culture, its impact to the employees, its impact with your customers, its impact with your partners. It's just got these tentacles and these arms that have been going out farther and farther. I just find it super fascinating to watch all of this, having been in technology for as long as I have.
So I'm guessing when I'm up in your office next week, I'm going to see that whiteboard behind there is going to have that matrix on it. Yeah. And will probably be a blog post here coming.
It could be. It sounds like a good LinkedIn post, actually. So.
Yeah. Well, our blog needs a little bit of work too. So write that up and throw your matrix in there. But I do like the idea. I mean, I think, look, we can beat this horse all day long, but the reality at the end of the day is the workforce is changing, right? And you had, we saw it at the beginning of the, pandemic, right? You had a lot of people in our world that are, getting in a pickup truck or an SUV and driving to job sites or factories or whatever it might be. And they did that every day before. But how they went about it when they got there and so forth changed. A lot of them then got trapped in a house where they had to start using their computers and their technology more. Some people, this didn't impact nearly as much. But what we can see is, we've talked to a lot of companies about this, is that now there is that expectation of younger potential employees. We were talking to a company that's going to be joining us as a LeadSmart customer as well very soon, recently in the southeast part of the U.S., and they said that they've got applicants that are now asking them about what their technology is that they employ that will help them do their job. Right? We're talking about 100-year-old company, family owned, that's a stalwart in their marketplace, that is seeing something very, very different. And I think we talk about this almost every week, about the value of technology when used correctly in a business. And I just don't think we can, at any point in time, we can't say enough about the value of understanding what technology plays as these wholesale distributors and manufacturers that we partner with are looking to grow their companies, because times are changing no matter how we slice it.
Yeah. And I guess that then ties into the last one here from CNBC about
Yep.
cloud stocks, which I was good to see that. But it makes a lot of sense, is that, moving your technology to the cloud, it just makes your technology that much more enabling, right?
Mm-hmm.
It makes it that much more potentially powerful in its reach and its capability. Not to mention, it cuts a lot of cost, and believe it or not, is actually way more secure than than having something in-house, right?
Yep.
These cloud companies are investing billions of dollars to make sure that they can keep hackers and other people, their products really secure. Well,
Mm-hmm.
most companies, if you have a server room, are not spending millions and millions of dollars to make sure your server room or your on-premise stuff is secure as it needs to be. So to me, this is obvious. I'm glad to see the market seeing this. I'm glad to see that and obviously the numbers will tell from these companies as they report their earnings and so forth, but we've seen them so far continue to grow strong.
Right.
I'm going to be up at Salesforce Dreamforce next week and
That's right.
getting more of that stuff. So it's anyway, all of these things to me kind of paint a picture.
100%. And it's interesting, right? It's 2022. We're going to be, before we know it, 2023, and things are changing fast, and I think they're going to continue to change fast. I was on a call earlier this week with a large industrial and industrial safety distributor. They've got offices all over the country. Great team, great people, and the guy leading the charge for them on CRM and their other technology tools was talking with me about that they're still using remote logins for their team to come in to get to their ERP data and other data within their organization. And in my mind, I'm like, wait a minute, the cloud. Let's talk about the opportunities with that, because I think most of us have had that experience of having to go to a remote server and log in, and it doesn't look the same. Yeah, it doesn't feel the same when you're using a VPN in that setting. And so we just don't need to do those things anymore. And boy, when you can get rid of that server closet, there's nothing better than that in an organization. So anyways, I think that's good stuff. We're going to continue to have these discussions. The one thing I was just laughing though about was, before we wind down today, is regarding that article or that video clip. It's like, nice to see. There's two things that came out of it for me at the end of it was, they talk a lot about platforms, right? Because there's a difference between buying a piece of software and buying a software platform. And so I thought that was a unique conversation there, because platforms really enable so much more than just buying a one-off piece of software. And but the other part of it I was thinking about, and you're a much more active investor than I am, but I'm just thinking about my technology company holdings. When I watch this and I look at it and I say, well, how is Microsoft valuation cut in half in the last 6 months when they're growing and their earnings are good, and it's just looking at Salesforce, Microsoft, Adobe, whoever it might be, in these things, and just like, come on.
Well, you have the market, right? Market sentiment is driving valuation.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. So
we know that Microsoft isn't half the company that they were.
Which is exactly the point of that video. And the thing on CNBC is, do we know how low the market will go based on sentiment? No, we don't.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's huge opportunities with these companies as the market, to get in on these companies at prices and valuations that, in 5 years, you're going to go, oh my God, I would love to get in at a little bit of that. So, the market sentiment doesn't always reflect the actual, what's actually going on with these companies. And I think a lot of them have held up in some ways even better than the overall market on some of the things. But yeah, I think there's definitely in my humble opinion, and we're not giving financial advice, but in my humble opinion, I think there's a lot of companies that are grossly oversold based on, again, market sentiment and not really understanding, but they're really, really, and again, I'm going to be at Dreamforce next week for Salesforce, and I've already started to look at some of the things that they're going to be announcing and talk about. And I mean, it's quite remarkable, some of the things that are coming out, again, enabled by the cloud and enabled by the platforms that are there. So, yeah. So, I say just keep buying.
Can I have a raise?
Yeah. Keep buying.
Yeah. Super. Give me a raise and I can keep buying.
Okay.
Good. Well, let's start to kind of wind this down for today. I'm kind of giggling to myself because we've had fewer questions and comments today than we have in the past. And you and I talked this morning that we thought we had some of the best articles that we've shared in the last month or so with this. So obviously we need to kind of find that balance there, but I loved these articles. So hopefully the folks that get a chance to watch this on the recording, and it's interesting, right? Because we get a smaller group attending with us live each week than we do of people watching the recordings later. I probably had 3 emails this morning, even within a few minutes of us starting, that's like, can't make it this morning, but I'm going to watch the recording. So that's the value of having this on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And people can obviously on those platforms, wherever they're watching, I think mostly LinkedIn is where we're at, is add some comments after the fact, and we'll still see those and can share. So look, as you mentioned, you're at Dreamforce in San Francisco next week. If anybody that's with us now is going to be there, ping Tom, T. Burton at leadsmarttech.com. And then if you're going to be at the National Safety Congress in San Diego over the next few days, I'll be there Sunday afternoon to Tuesday afternoon. I'm really looking forward to seeing a lot of the folks that are normally with us. Going to be there. I've got a couple of good dinners scheduled with some great people from the industrial distribution world this coming up over the weekend and early next week. So I think that's it for the moment. Anything else, Tom?
All right. Nope. Have a good weekend and have a good week on our travels.
Thanks, everybody.